5 stupid things people do with their money. All right. And there might be more. I know there's more, but I'm just going to do 5. I was thinking about this in the shower today. I said, this is good. This is good. So if you have other ideas, put them in the show notes, and I'll do a video. There's lots of stupid things people do with their money, but the 5 things that jumped out at me. So feel free to put your own in the show notes. I took notes here, too. Keeping adult children on the payroll. Dudes. So I've been doing this business for a long time. And I'm telling you, man, I'll never forget these people up in Rochester, New York. I think it was Rochester. Up that way. Upstate New York. Nicest people in the world, man. And they were starting to, I was nervous. They're running low on funds. Not anything immediate or anything, but it's like, ugh. We're running these financial plans for them. I was like, and I said, what is this expense right here? Where is this going? They said, oh, it's our son. I said, and these are older people. Well into their 60s. I said, this is back in 2012, something like that. I said, is he disabled? Is he special needs? Well, he goes, no, he's a perpetual entrepreneur. We just want to help him out. I said, man, you got to stop doing that, man. Because your funds are running out. And he goes, well, he's always got a business, and he always thinks it's going to be the next. I said, at some point, you got to break the chains. You got to let him pass or fail on his own, but you're running into your portfolio significantly that, 5-10 years from now, there might not be anything left. I'll never forget that. And I've had this on occasion with people that say, I'm just going to help my daughter out. She just needs another help. And I say, another helping hand. At some point, you're not helping. You're just not. You're becoming an enabler. You're enabling them to keep on these bad habits because they know they can always turn to mom and dad. I have someone very close to my family who's like that, which I will not say here today. But it's like I can always rely on mom and dad. And at some point, you just got to sever the chain. I know, man, it's tough. And you might not need to do that if you don't run out of money, but these people were. And I'll also never forget that, too. This is such a nice guy. He was going to give a bunch of money to the local Catholic church or school. I can't remember what it was. I said, man, I get you want to, he wanted to create like an endowment. I said, no, I get it, but you don't have the financial wherewithal to do that. And they were spending a pretty good amount of money on the various gifting they had. Nice people. But I said, he's like, well, worst case scenario, if we run out of money, we can live on Social Security. I said, no, I get it. I mean, I say that all the time too. But you're spending way up here, and your Social Security is way down there. That's a drastic reduction in expenditures. I said, anyway, that's number 5. Number 4 is the exact opposite. Not helping adult children when you can, when they need it. Oh, this drives me up the wall, too. So we're in this house right here because when my Grammy died, my Grampy and Grampy. So Grampy died in 2008, Thanksgiving Day, 2008. 2008 he died. My Grammy died in 2012. And we got an inheritance from Grammy and Grampy that was basically, so they're Catholics. They had a bunch of kids and a bunch of grandkids. But they had a sizable estate because they lived in Los Altos, California. They'd been there since 1967 or something like that, probably 1971. So the house just boomed in value. And I remember going there. I said, that's a nice house. Putting all that in a bag of chips. That was in 1979. But I mean, their house. So anyway, they had a high net worth. He had a pension from the military, a pension from airline because he's a pilot, and then Social Security. Yeah. And they just didn't spend very much money. They're just very frugal. They're Great Depression people. Wonderful, wonderful people. So when Grammy died, and she had been in a nursing home for about 12 months or something like that, I guess in my Grampy and Grammy's estate, it said, bypass their children and give some of this money to the grandkids. And so the children still got a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But I tell you, we need that money because we had 4 young kids. Charles wasn't working, and we need that money, and it helped us put the down payment on his home. I'll never forget that. I'll always be grateful for Grammy and Grampy have done that, and also for my uncles for allowing that to happen. Because I'm sure they could say, why are the kids getting the money? They didn't. My uncles are freaking just wonderful, wonderful people, and they were they're allowing the Grampy and Grampy to. They still got some inheritance, don't get me wrong, but they're allowing them to bypass them to get the grandkids to get some money, and I need that money then. And so when you're waiting to death, keeping adult children, not helping your adult children when they need it most. When you're waiting to death, they're going to be, by the time you die, they'll probably be 55, 60. They need the money now. Now, I'm not saying just go out there and stroke a check for $100,000. I'm just saying if you have the ability and you got kids or grandkids who need help with finances, you should help them. Again, we're not trying to keep them on the payroll, a la the first example. We're just trying to say, hey, man, I want to give you a leg up. So what we're doing is we're paying off our student loans. We're paying all the student loans, God willing. I mean, I don't know if we'll still be able to afford it 2 years from now. I don't know. But Maddie's done. Chloe's almost done. No student loans hardly speak of. I think like $10,000. They both have brand new cars. Well, not brand new, but they both have new cars. So they're starting off their careers with no debts on a vehicle and no debts on student loans. It's a wonderful place to be. Does that set us back? Of course it does. I just sent a check for $16,000 for the first semester to Auburn University for my other son, Calvin. And hopefully Liam will get in a UGA school or something like that. That sets us back 100%. But it's money well spent. You're investing in your children in the future. And I think more people need to do that, as opposed to saying, I'm going to leave my kids a legacy of $1 million or something like that. I get that. I'm saying, but man, why not start now when they need it? All right, number 3. Oh, this drives me up the wall. Creating trust that restrict when your heirs can get the money. This is one of my pet peeves. I don't know if I haven't been involved in estate planning for a long time, so I don't know if they still do it. But back in the old days, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I'm sure they still do. They design these living trusts that become irrevocable upon the death of the grantor of the trust. And it's what they say is, hey, when I die, Charlotte or Josh, it's Josh, won't be able, he'll get a third of the money at 25, a third of the money at 35, a third of the money at 45, depending on if he follows these stipulations that I'll give to the trustee. And of course, the trustee will be an uncle, the trustee will be someone else, the accountant and the attorney. And I'm like, Josh doesn't need the money at 45. He certainly needs that 35, but he probably needs that 25 as well. Why would you restrict your kids getting the assets that you have saved for them, or that you have saved up, to 25, 35, 45, and put these stipulations that they only get the money if they do this, they do that? I don't get that at all, man. Now, obviously, if your kids are up to no good, if they're snorting coke and all that, yeah, we want to do that. But I cannot tell you how many trust documents I've seen. It says, you realize in a revocable living trust, revocable, it says that, freaking Cindy will only get a third at 25, a third at 35, a third at 45, right? Yeah, well, we did that when she's a minor. I said, well, she's not a minor anymore, dude. She's 27 years old. And is she smoking dope and freaking, selling crack? No, she's kicking ass, taking names. So why would you want to restrict it? It doesn't make sense to me. Now, again, I'm not an attorney. You talk to your attorney about that, but I think it's a huge mistake. Just think if you're Cindy. You're like, dude, I'm crushing out there. I got 2 kids. My husband and I are just living legends. And, dad died and, mom died, and now I can't have access to the money until I'm 35. I need the money now. Making children co-owners of your assets on your accounts. The one thing that always jumps out is, mom survived husband. Mom is by herself. She's 82 years old, and she wants to put Cindy on as an owner of the account of the house in particular to avoid probate. Horrible mistake. Horrible mistake. You are making a significant gift to Cindy. Now, it won't be subject to gift tax unless mom has really got tons and tons of millions of dollars. But, she still have to file a gift tax return. Not a big deal. But it's not subject to gift tax. Even though she goes over the annual exclusion, she still has her lifetime exemption of gifts. So it's not subject to gift tax. My hair's sticking up. But she still has to file a gift tax return that she has named or made a gift to Cindy. And what's the gift? Half the ownership of my house. All right. Well, that's bad. But what's even worse is that when you die, Mom, well, Cindy now, she only gets a half of the step-up basis. Why? Because she is an owner of half of it. Owners don't get a 100% step-up basis in assets they own. They only get the step-up basis on the asset part they don't own. So if your house you bought in, 1992 in Los Altos, California for $300,000 is now worth 1.5, and you name Cindy on that, well, Cindy's value is $750,000. Which means she will have to pay tax on the difference between her value and whatever the cost basis is, half the cost basis. So her value would be $750, half the cost basis would be $150. She'd have to pay a capital gain tax on $600,000. Don't do that. Now, my numbers might be exact right there, so just, it's okay. But you get the thing. If you were to die and just left that house to Cindy via your probate or even like a quick claim deed or something like that, Cindy doesn't have, she gets a step-up basis. She takes the ownership of it without having to pay capital gain tax because step-up basis. And the same thing goes for your brokerage accounts. I'm going to name Cindy as my joint tenants of right survivorship so avoids probate. Oh, dude, don't do. I mean, look, there's other ways to do this. Transfer and death arrangements, powers of attorney, all kinds of stuff. I mean, powers of attorney to help Cindy manage your account. TODs to avoid probate. Again, I'm not exactly sure how you can, I don't know if quit claim deed avoids probate or I don't know, for a home. But at the end of the day, there are ways to make your house avoid probate if that's even the worst thing that ever happened. I'm not an attorney, so you have to talk that with your attorney. But at the end of the day, why would you sacrifice significant tax-free benefits to Sydney just to name her as an owner of your co-owner of your house? That doesn't make any sense. Don't do that. Again, seek legal counsel on this stuff. I'm not an attorney. I don't practice being an attorney. I just know it's a mistake that people should not do. All right, most likely. There might be a reason to do it. Seek legal counsel. The biggest stupid things people do with their money. Putting bonds in a brokerage account. Now, if you haven't seen my video, my course I got down there, investments, my investment course is down there in the show notes there. You can click on, I think, what I charge, $200 for that or something like that. You don't want bonds in your brokerage account, man. That's dumb. Why? Because bond income is taxed as ordinary income. If you have your bonds in a brokerage account, all right, and your stocks in an IRA, I talk about this in both my courses, retirement course and the other course I got, the investment course. If you have bonds in a brokerage account, you're taking an asset that's taxed as ordinary income in terms of the income that you receive the bonds, the interest that you get. If you have stocks in an IRA, on top of that, you're taking an asset that normally would have been taxed as qualified dividends, long-term capital gains, and you're making that also taxed as ordinary income. Because anything that comes out of an IRA or 401k is taxed as ordinary income. There's no dividend preference in taxes from anything coming out of an IRA. So all taxed as ordinary income. So now you have stocks that coming out of your IRA, taxed as ordinary income. Bonds in your pre-tax, your post-tax account is taxed as ordinary income. Even worse is bonds don't grow. There's no growth in bonds, all right? So there's no step up in basis on the potential growth you could have like you would have for stocks. Stocks grow, all right? We have unlimited upside for stocks. Bonds are fixed. That's what I call fixed income. So now all your growth is geared towards your IRA and the stocks. So not only the stocks got to come out as ordinary income tax, but the growth will be subject to income tax too when you die. There's no step-up basis for an IRA. So if you have $100,000 in your IRA and it's all in stocks and it grows to $200,000, when your kids inherit that, they got to pay tax on ordinary income on $200,000. Conversely, if you had $100,000 in a brokerage account in a stock fund, total stock index, and it grew to $200,000, not only have you minimized any kind of interest or not capital gain. There's no capital gain if you have like a Vanguard ETF, but let's just use this for example. You have long-term capital gain. If the 12% tax bracket is tax-free, qualified dividends if the 12% tax bracket is tax-free. So let's just assume there's tax-free there, tax-free, or even you got to pay 15% on long-term capital gains or qualified dividends. It's still better than 22 or 24% on ordinary income. On top of that, the $100,000 that grew to $200,000 when you die transfers to your kids completely tax-free via step-up basis again. All right, so step-up basis is huge, and people don't use this well enough. I don't have bonds in your IRA, dude. I mean, in your taxable account. Your taxable account should consist of, there's a many million reasons you would have fixed income in your taxable account. But generally speaking, if I had to say one thing, I'd say your bonds and your IRA, your stocks, and your brokerage account. That's the way it should be. All right, love your thoughts. If you got some things to add, put them in the show notes. God bless. Smash that like button. We'll see you.